Hey, what's going on, guys? Y'all want to learn how to stain some deer antlers? I think that's what we're going to do. So y'all stick around and let's go. Alright, so here's our buck. Y'all see, man, that thing's he's got little points all over. Really cool little deer. Well, the first thing I like to do, I like to take these brushes like this right here. This is stainless. I like to use stainless because everything I got down here seems like it's either got acid or salt on it. Very, very corrosive for everything. You see, as you're doing it, these places like this that are dark, where it's been probably sitting in the dirt and absorbing moisture, sometimes it'll stain the minerals in the dirt and all will kind of stain that. Take this brush, sit there, almost like you're sanding the antler with that brush. You want to get it almost down to the white again, instead of starting to get back white. That's what I'm going to do pretty much to this whole thing until I get all this cleaned up. And then we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, so I have basically got this cleaned up. Got all the nastiness off of it. We're ready to start getting this thing stained. What I'm going to use, this is Barrethane. It's a dark walnut. This is not, it's just a stained polyurethane mix. It's not just stained. It's actually got that polyurethane in it. And a lot of people really don't probably notice, but deer antlers have got a little bit of a sheen to them. They're not just a flat color. When you shine the light on, they're a little shiny. They're not like a high gloss, but they do have a shine to them. Just for comparison purposes, this is a set of horns that I put regular stain on, and you can see it almost just looks like they're painted. They don't have any shine at all. It's a continuous color all the way to the end. That's not what you want them to look like when you try to fix your antlers. And if you just take regular stain and just wipe it all over them, that's what you're going to end up with. What I like to do is take a rag. Don't use a brush, always use a rag. And now guys, when you go do this, don't go in the bathroom and go get the really nicest wash rag or dish rag out of the kitchen that you can find, or I promise you it's going to get you in trouble. It's just an old garbage cloth or rag. What I like to do is just get you a little bit on your rag at a time and start down here at the base. Down here is where the deer is going to be the darkest. So I like to get it on here fairly thick. It really doesn't matter how dark you get this. A lot of deer, I mean, it ain't black down at the bottom, but it is very, very, very dark. If you use a corner of the rag, keep your stain on, and the back side of the rag to wipe off any excess. Keep you from making a big, gigantic mess. I really like this color. I've tried regular walnut, and it just don't have the dark brown in it that I think matches the natural antler a little bit better. Walnut doesn't have a whole lot of orange in it. Some antlers are a little bit more orange than others. This actually makes them a little bit more brown, but does a really nice job. When you get out toward the ends of the antlers, I don't like to use a whole lot of stain. We'll come back in a little while, I'll show you kind of how to fix that if you get a little too much stain on there. But I like to leave it a little bit lighter at the ends where the deer, the ends of their antlers get rubbed on trees and stuff, and kind of lightens up the tips. A little bit darker toward the base of each tine and down the main beam. Y'all can see how the color is starting to look on that right there. And I haven't used hardly any stain. I mean, what's still on this rag, I mean, I'm just still working into that bone. And that's what you want to do. You just want to just take that little bit of stain and just keep rubbing it in because if you get too much, you're going to end up with just a solid color rack. You don't want that. You want to add a little bit of color at a time to make sure that you don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, it's hard to go backwards. You just about can't ever get that color out of there again. What you want to pay attention to too, down in these grooves, in between all these little burls in the bottom of this antler, make sure that you get plenty of stain down in between those. Where it's going to be the darkest is going to be down in the bottom of those grooves where the antler can't make contact with the tree when he's rubbing the tree. But you can see side-by-side comparison. That's already starting to look really nice compared to that white side. Now you can really start to see starts to bring out the colors and the lines in the antler, just like putting stains on a piece of wood. You rub that on there, all those little details and little stripes and lines and colorations just start coming right out. The stain brings them back out again. That right there is starting to look pretty good. Little trick that I like to use. When you're restaining a deer, sometimes a customer will want tines rebuilt. Well, if they don't tell you that they want them rebuilt, they decide to leave them broken as they found them, I like to leave that bone colored. It kind of gives it the look like it was freshly broken off, makes the rest of the rack, look fresh. And it looks like a fresh break there instead of, a broken off deadhead. You just leave that white color on there to kind of give the illusion that it was a fresh break on a live deer. Okay, moving on. You give that just a couple of seconds to dry. It doesn't have to be dry completely. Matter of fact, I kind of prefer if it's not. Because on this next step, when you start to fade some of that color in, if you still got a little bit of moisture on there, you can kind of blend it with your hand. Something I didn't mention, make sure that you wear some gloves. If you don't, you're going to stain your hands and fingernails, and that stuff will be on there until your skin wears off. Anyway, I've got me some sandpaper. It really does not matter what grit you use. I'll get this, I think this is 100, maybe 80. I just like to take this, what you want to do is just lightly rake it over the very surface of that. I don't know if you can see what's happening, but what that'll do is it's going to take the stain right off the tips of all those little burrs where it looks like that deer's been rubbing on a tree. You just want to get the very, very surface. If you wipe it with your hand, it'll blend all that back in again. See how that looks right there compared to the other side. It's a subtle difference. You could probably leave it just like this, but that right there looks like you've just shot that deer and it's fresh. It just makes it look nice, gives it a little bit of extra detail without a whole lot of extra work, which is what I'm all about. Main place you want to do this, you don't want to do it on the inside of any curls where they can't get to trees when they're rubbing. The tips of the antlers are usually lighter. I like to go over them a little bit. Also helps to kind of blend your stain in. Makes a good transition to that lighter color. The good thing about this, as long as you don't use too much stain to begin with, if you take off too much stain, you can always add a little bit more back. Another place I like to do it is right where the tines come up off that main beam. If you ever notice on deer, if you ever take one of your old racks you got at the house and look and see what the colors look like on them. You can tell where the racks have been more in the sun and where they've made more contact when they're rubbing and walking through brush, trees, and anywhere that it can hit. You just want to take that sandpaper and hit as well. Also, on the outside of this main beam, there's going to be places on the outside of that main beam. If you just take that sandpaper, keep it kind of flat, and just rub it right across the top of that, what it'll do is expose the high points. And those little high points right there is what's going to be rubbing up against stuff and making that antler a different color than the rest of it. And so rather than trying to go in and paint and make a bunch of different colors, because the antler is made up of a bunch of different colors anyway, this way you're kind of doing it all in one step. So there you go. I think that's just about all I'm going to do to these. I'm going to give y'all a close-up, best I can, of how this turned out here. You can see those high points in that antler, where you run that sandpaper over it. See how that right there looks? Just want it to look natural like that, where the tips of all those little burrs are sanded down in white. And you can also see all those little veins that run through that, just like in a piece of wood when you stain it. You hit that high point with that sandpaper and it just brings out every little detail and color. Compare it to the other rack I had previously. You can see how that stain just don't do the job. And this is the same color stain. This right here is a dark walnut as well. But this is just white tone, one solid coat, and also has no polyurethane in it. It was also never sanded. That's just a solid bone. You never want to do that because it won't work. And it's not easy to get this back to bone color. It takes a lot of sanding to get that fixed. But anyway, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed that, and I really appreciate y'all checking this channel out. If you would, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and please go down below and hit the subscribe button. I will be making some more videos of this type probably sometime soon, so you never know what might come up. Anything weird or unique that I see that I've got to do, I'll try to put it on here so maybe y'all can get an idea of how to bounce your own deer if you ever decide to try it. Anyway, thank y'all, and I will holler at y'all next time.